Hello, everybody. Did we do it right this time?
I think so.
Can everybody see us?
Well,
sure.
The thing says live in 30 seconds, so I think so.
We're getting the hang of it. How about that? So how's everybody's day going? We've been wet and chilly and miserable, but had good results all day.
Well, all the bright guys are shaking their heads yes, and I'm going to go. It's been rotten here.
So JW, are you like sitting at your front window and just like with all this rain and wetness, just watching all of your ATVs and your apartmobile just like sink further and further and further into the mud?
I got them all out yesterday with help from two of my nephews and my son and a neighbor.
Oh, wow. You brought some forces.
And what a mess. I've had over a foot of rain here in the last 10 days.
That's insanity.
I'm over a foot now. Probably close to maybe 13, 14 inches because I haven't even looked and it's rained here all day. Pretty hard about all day.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I never seen the ground any wetter, and I've been at it a long time, and I never seen the ground around here any wetter than what it is right now. It's just no bottom to it. It's just a mud hole.
Yeah.
Where you go.
I would.
Concerned. It just rained. It rains hard enough. I haven't opened my beehives, and I guarantee you, first day of nice sunny afternoon I'll have every hive in
the trees.
Yeah, in the trees.
Oh boy.
I guarantee it because they're stout, but I can open them up and drown them, I guess. But
don't do that.
I'm gonna have a mess, I tell you.
You better tell those bees to start building some arcs, some wax arcs.
That's what I was gonna say. You might ought to start building an arc and get those hives on there because I'm pretty sure that wave's coming at you.
I know that isn't going to get me, but it's just so soft you just can't get around. I can't drive nothing even in my bee yards. That round pen I can because that's that's got ground tires, rubber tires ground up.
Oh, okay, it does.
Places under that. So I used to I could train horses in that round pen or break calves when it was 12 inches of snow on it because it'll hold up. But that backyard around there, but the hoop building,
mm-hmm.
And then I've got 2 or 3 hives up there on my neighbor that I haven't even been up there. It's a mess. So
yeah.
I just hope it balances out, and doesn't get super dry in the winter or during.
That's what'll happen here when it turns off, and there'll be a dust
these
ball.
Other regions of the country that aren't seeing any precipitation get a little bit of what we're getting right now because it's too much of a good thing,
Well, I hate to be pessimistic, and I'm usually optimistic, but I'm really concerned about the situation with the bees here right now because I know my hives are loaded, and I know what's going to happen. The first Sunday afternoon, they'll be everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see your comment there. I actually got kicked out of the dining room, so I'm back in the old.
Look, he's down to 1. He's got 1 left with no lid.
Yeah. Hey, with all the money you made from those nukes, she should at least let you in the house.
You'd think I could at least afford a green screen or something. I'm cheap, Tom. I'm cheap, man. I got,
We may have to take up a GoFundMe to get you a green screen from Amazon.
There you go. I actually got a wireless charger, so I'm all set. I'm ready for an all-nighter.
We're not. We're both of us are not done tonight.
I'm tired. Tom and I were up pretty early this morning.
Oh man, Melissa didn't.
You were up earlier than me, probably, but my alarm went off at 4.
Yeah, she didn't let me go to bed till midnight last night, and I was up right before 4 o'clock this morning. So, when I got back and had to get a few nukes together at the shop to not really deliver, but get them up around front. I got back about 30 minutes or so before anybody was going to show up, and I told Melissa, I said, "Hey, if I don't come up top by the time that you get here," I'm like, "you may need to come back and get me." I'm like, "I'm just going to sit in my truck and let it run and lean the chair back." And I'm like, I might fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
there in his truck. When you're tired, anything is comfy, right?
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So Bundy asked about Joey. So Joey messaged us the other day and said that he didn't think that he was going to be able to go live tonight because he wanted to go support Anthony Phillips, who was speaking at a nearby club this evening. So he's like, if you guys want to go live, so there's a chat Saturday night. I think I'm going to go to Anthony's speaking engagement. So he went to a meeting, I guess, where Anthony was speaking to give him some support.
He said he would try to come on later if he could.
Yeah. So
were you guys passing out the EMBA nukes today?
That's right. This morning. That actually went really well. I liked some of the things that they've done in the past that we've continued to implement. So just a few different things so that you can minimize any.
It's a pretty well-oiled machine.
I don't want to say problems, but you can head things off on the front side so you don't create some problems.
Sure.
I'll give you just for an example. So when people order nukes, they have to pay for them 100% up front. That creates serious people, right?
Yep.
We don't do that. We ask for 50% as a deposit, and that's a non-refundable deposit. The idea is that you're serious about it.
Yep.
And we just don't want to have to work twice to get the same thing done. People need to make up their minds. Anyway, so that the one thing is they have to prepay for everything up front. And with the understanding that there's going to be a pickup of one of 2 weekends based upon the growth rate of the colonies. Those are some of the things that are out of our control, obviously.
Okay.
And so we say it's going to be one of these 2 weekends, weather providing, and everybody has to send in their emails and things of that nature so that we can contact them back. And that's how it's done. They also say you can follow social media and things of that nature. But so basically anyway, then we have a pickup window in the morning, usually from, 7 till 9?
Yeah.
From 7 till 9, that's the pickup window when you're notified. And it's really hard lines. Like, you must pick up your nucleus colony. And if you don't pick it up, you forfeit that colony. So people, that makes people really serious about, hey, I had to go out of town, but I've got somebody coming to pick it up. That's fine. That's okay. That way, people aren't monopolizing your time, and tying you up for
and everybody's volunteering to do this. So it's not like anybody's getting paid to be up there.
No. Yeah.
So 7 to 9 today was pickup of nukes. How many nukes were picked up today?
200.
201.
Yeah, 201.
And then next week is the second week?
No, there's only one.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 2 weeks are the window.
Yeah,
like if it doesn't happen this week, it'll be next week.
I apologize. I didn't.
Gotcha. I understand.
So, but it's a pretty well-oiled machine. Once we get the exact date when they're being delivered, Tom left the house at 4:00 this morning because they were going to be the where we do the distribution is about 45 minutes from our house. Okay. And Tom had to take a machine up there to unload them off the truck. So he left our house at 4 to go up there to offload them at 5. And then pickup wasn't until 7, but they had to unload everything and stage everything.
Maybe it was 6 was it pickup?
I don't know.
It might've started at
6. Maybe it was 6 to 8. 6 to 8.
I think it was 6 to 8.
People anyway, up pretty quick.
So staging, once he gets them unloaded, there's volunteers up there unloading the crates that he unloaded and staging everything. And so we kind of have it to where you drive in, we have lists of who bought what. Last year we did, I don't know, I wasn't there because I had to get ready for market. Last year what you did is when we checked you in, we gave you tickets to how many nukes you got. And then you go to the handout, you keep driving to the handout and you turn your tickets into those people. They load up however many nukes you got to. And if you need to ask questions there, you can ask questions there. And then you just drive off and go on. So you
don't even leave your car.
Nope, you don't even need to leave your car. It flows really well.
I've seen that set up a couple of different places and it can work really smoothly. How do you get those people out of the line that want to grill you for 15 minutes?
So we have a couple of different lines. I think last year we had a couple different lines going. After they passed me and Janet from check-in, there was like 2 or 3 different lines, pickup lines. So that really kept things going. What we want to implement next year is you check in, pick up your nuke. Do not ask those people questions. If you have questions, it's in a large parking lot. We're going to set up an area that you can go and park, and that's going to be your question.
Like a question and answer booth.
Yes, yes, exactly. So that's how we're going to facilitate that, maybe a little bit more streamlined next year. But so far, it's actually worked really well how we've been doing it. Were
there any other bottlenecks to think about?
I don't think so. Not usually.
Not really, Brian. Actually, it went very well, actually. And we usually get plenty of volunteers to help it.
It was my first one that I had been to, especially at that size, you know.
Yeah.
So it was basically like a nuke drive-through, you know, really organized. You know, you knew where to go. Matter of fact, when I left, Tom, the nuke arrow sign to show people what direction to go had fallen over, so I stopped and picked it up, but it was a 1/4-inch backer board and it actually snapped in half. So I set it up on the bumper of that maroon truck that was parked there, but it was kind of like it split up the word nuke. So I hope it helped people, but it was better than laying flat on the concrete, you know.
Yeah. Matt, did you notice anything that you thought could have been improved upon?
No, it was pretty seamless. You know, I wasn't there for the distribution because I had to get back for our own pass outs here in town, but there were, I can imagine it went really smooth. And like Brian's saying, you know, those nuke buyers definitely have good questions, you know, or, you know, questions that need to be dealt with if they have them in a sense.
Yeah.
You can really go ahead.
There's plenty of experienced beekeepers there volunteering that can answer those questions too. Absolutely. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No worries. And you know, it was fun. It was fun distributing the nukes that I have already. I have some pretty funny stories, you know, just some of the questions I've been asked. But just to give you an idea, the one that came this evening got 5 nukes. And when I had them set out, because I have them in the backyard, so I carry them around and make sure I actually duct tape those pro nuke doors shut just in case. And, you know, just try to do every precaution if they're having to haul them. And she looks at them and she says, "Are those coming in bigger boxes?" Or I was like, "No, like, you know, like that was part of the whole newsletter and the email train, you know, the whole communication thing that we did, you know, and instructions, you know, but so anyway, so yeah, it went fine. She understood, and I just mentioned the store in town, you know, and you know, Isby's, just stop there and they'll take care of you. So it was fine.
Well,
but, you know,
get it all right.
some of those educational things is kind of the timing of it. You know, she's standing there making phone calls. It's like, do you want these nukes or not? Like, you know, it's raining.
Well, the one peep that we picked up this evening, and again, like JW said, it's been raining nonstop, and it was raining on us there. The one lady's like, "Oh, I bet you hate this," and I'm like, actually, it couldn't be just the opposite, honestly, because I said this is the best day to pick up. I said you don't have any sun out, so you don't have to worry about this. You don't have to worry about that solar energy hitting those boxes and heating them up. You know, I said it's a little bit of light rain, so even if you left the doors open, they're not going to want to fly. You know. Yeah. And I'm like, it's just a little bit chilly, which is perfect. You know, I'm like, bees do a pretty good job of keeping themselves warm. But when it gets really, really hot and you lock them in a plastic box, they'll have a little bit of trouble keeping themselves cool. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. You know, we've always expressed to people that, hey, when you pick up this colony, your job is to go straight to the location in which you're going to set it up on. And if you can't install it then, or you don't want to install it then, set it on top of that hive that's already ready to go. It's already, you know, everything has to be prepped, ready to go. Everything's already set. Set it on top there, open the door, and just walk away. And the lady's like, "Well, can't I just leave it in the garage for a couple of days?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not." And I said, bees don't do well being cooped up. You know, I said it goes against their, you know, the natural seam of things. And I'm like, it makes them get really noisy and loud, and it's difficult for them to not really overheat. Now, if it's a little bit cooler, obviously it's a little bit easier, but all in all, it's just best. I'm like, get them out, reduce the stress that you can on those colonies from the travel and everything else. Get them in their box, get them a little feed, and let them settle in for a week. That's, you know, just rip the Band-Aid off, get them in, get it done. And then one guy had a question earlier on the EMBA thing, said, "Hey, said something about, can I go ahead and just, leave them locked in for a couple of days? And I'm like, do not do that, because you'll end up wondering why you've got bees that are cooked inside there. And I always tell everybody, I'm like, look, we have a meeting coming up in 2 weeks. Please come to this meeting. It's free of charge. There's no cost. There are several seasoned beekeepers that can answer any and every question that you think is silly or what have you. And I'm like, we're going to go over basic installation on certain things too, and procedures and what you should be looking at, as well as our featured presenter that's going to be here too. So, you keep pushing them to education. I'm constantly doing that. When you talk to somebody for all of about 60 seconds, you realize very quickly their skill level, usually based upon just the terminology alone. And then I quickly throw them to education. It just right off the bat. And I'm like, I've got several sources of education that I can send you to. I can't see myself on the screen now.
I know. I'm pinning this link. You're going to have to just talk like you know what you're doing.
Well, I don't.
Just as ugly as ever, Tom.
Brian, thank you. Hey, what about now, Brian?
Oh, my word.
Hey, it's good to have great friends. You know that. I love it.
Looks like Carl had a great day at the market. Doubled our best day ever. Right on. Good for you guys, Carl.
Good job.
Yeah, I see this picture up.
Yeah.
Why am I frozen?
You're not. I paused this. This is YouTube. Keep talking. You're good.
You're messing me up. Just leave the computer alone, please.
So let me ask you guys a question. Your club sells nukes. Via Honeybees sell nukes.
That's
Sandy
right.
Valley sell nukes. Do you guys have a monopoly on the market there? Or are there that many people buying bees?
So not only that, but Isabees sells nukes and packages.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
3 are Jefferson County does packages.
Yep. It did package.
And 3 Rivers, I think, does packages too.
Mm-hmm.
So and Jane sells a ton too.
So Brian, to give you an idea, I actually wholesaled some nukes. My first order of nukes went out and were wholesaled to her to redistribute. So,
gotcha.
Matt, I have a funny story for you later on to talk about in private regarding people bringing nukes. Nothing bad.
Nice
nothing
of you
bad.
to have everybody else have to sit on the edge of their seat wondering what's going on behind the scenes.
Hey, listen, why don't you just tech this thing up? You just get those buttons pressed and stuff, and you just let Irwin and Sons handle this from here on out.
No.
Now, do you have people coming from hours and hours and hours to come get your nukes, or?
I think the furthest is an hour, maybe hour and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that sounds about right. Maybe an hour and a half.
For us, anyway.
I had dirty side residents come on over to the Missouri clean side and pick up some. Just on the western side or eastern side of Nebraska was the furthest that I know of have gone. So,
okay. Wow. We had with the folks that I was helping pass out the packages. They'll get people from Wyoming or really far southeast Colorado, and for those people, they were actually having us pull out the queens and show the customer so that there you go.
That's my mother.
There you go. So a local person can always come and pick up a dead queen when they install their package. But if you're driving 6 hours to go install your package, it can be a little bit trickier. So we were actually showing those people their queen. So we'd pull out the can, pull out the queen, put the can on really quick to not get many bees coming out. But I thought that was a good idea for those people. And it was only 3 or 4 different customers.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I love this guy, Philip. Yep, I like it. Well, my advice would be, Mr. Morris, is it RTX Honeybees? Is that right? So I don't think I know him. So, Mr. Philip, I would suggest asking Noah. Let's just go the safe route. We'll just ask him, the educator.
Just go straight to the source.
That's right. Just go to the source. Oh boy.
4 hours away. Is he going to be traveling with them in an enclosed vehicle or in a truck?
Yeah.
That would be my first question.
I'd say like back seat with the air conditioning would be the best
Or windows
situation.
open. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, tell us about your nuke sales. I know you have some that are going.
Oh, I'm still in the process. So I've got like 50 splits out and about. I've got like 40 splits in my backyard. And then like in my out yards, I've got them like in between colonies on stands, above and below double screen boards, all that kind of stuff. I'm in the wait and see. I'm in the feeding mode, right?
Yeah.
I have a lot of virgin queens that are out and going and getting mated and hopefully laying soon, but I'm in the leave them alone mode.
Mm-hmm.
I check them all on May 11th, and I've got one that I poke into. Like that's the one I'm gonna appease my curiosity on.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah. So I got that one, but they're in that stage. So I did it. I had of my 75, I had about 25 of my colonies die. And I'm in a really good place because of that. And that sounds like a really weird thing to say, but all of my splits I did with drawn comb from my dead outs. So I wasn't putting any foundation in until like a week ago. I ran out of drawn comb. So all those colonies I pulled back pretty hard. And right now they're getting to that place where they could be making swarm cells again, that kind of thing. So pulling them back worked really well. I'm set up for the honey harvest. I've got a lot of boxes on my colonies, giving them that extra space as well. Out in Aurora, they're putting a lot of honey in compared to out here, but they're starting to out here right now.
So now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Aurora is the solar farm. Is that right?
Yeah, and that's out by the airport on the east side of town.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. And now, if I remember correctly, that has actually always been I know you haven't had it long term, but since you have, it's been a pretty good nectar producing or honey producing location.
Yeah, last year was my first full year there, and I did really well there producing honey. You look around and it's kind of hard to tell. You're like, where's all the forage? But they actually made more honey out there than in my area. Like when my flow turned off in my area, you can tell immediately. It turns off like a faucet, and the bee's behavior just changes immediately. I went around, pulled off all my supers, put some supers back on to get cleaned off, and the ones I put out in Aurora, they just put right back in with honey. And I was like, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah.
I didn't expect that at all. If I did that in my backyard, they would have cleaned out those supers instead of putting honey in them. So I'm still learning about that yard. It's definitely different than the places I've had bees before.
Well, that sounds like a really good problem to have,
Yeah. I had a different experience today. This was kind of fun. Sometimes you worry about swarms and neighbors and neighbor interactions with swarm. I got a text from a lady who we have bees in her backyard. One of the colonies swarmed. The neighbors are having a birthday party. The guy's like, he's a beekeeper. He can catch them if you want. And I'm like, no. I'm like, my bees, don't touch them. But I'm like, your birthday party, I totally get it, right?
Yeah.
So long story short, I didn't get there till 2:30, 3 o'clock. They're still out there having a nice little birthday party in their backyard for, it turns out, their 1-year-old. I show up there and I'm like, so sorry for the inconvenience, blah, 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 that stuff. And two ladies right there are like, oh, this has been fun. This has been awesome. We've been watching them all day. We're really excited for this part. And I'm like, they were kind of like spread out on the chain link fence between the two backyards. So I just got my bee vac, because those are kind of hard to shake in a box. Half are going to fall on one side of the fence and half on the other. So I was like, look, it's going to be a tad anticlimactic. I'm just going to be vacuuming here. So I sat there and vacuumed for like a half an hour, and I was trying to get every bee I could, even though like 30 feet are away where the colonies they swarmed from. And I'm pretty sure it was one of the splits that swarmed based on the size of the swarm. Yeah. So I had two, had a split above and below double screen board. And I'm pretty sure it was the top one that swarmed because of the direction from where they went from that colony. But even like the homeowner came by, who I actually remember talking to right when they moved in. I remember him saying he had been a beekeeper before. He was actually really cool about it. Again, I was like apologetic. I'm really sorry for the inconvenience. I know you got a birthday party going on right over there. And he was like, yeah, not a problem at all. He was really cool about it.
That's
so
awesome.
We had a nice little bee chat. And, you know, I was expecting to walk into a conflict and everyone was just super, super cool. It was nice.
Yeah.
People are always fascinated about swarms.
Usually.
Have
yeah.
a million questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can always be a good teaching moment on something too, particularly if it's a neighbor of yours.
Yeah.
You know, you can help to educate them and create some excitement there with them, you know?
And they get to watch you playing in it the whole time and not get stung. And you're like, look, they're just flying around. They don't care about
it. They're always amazed at how close you can get to them.
Yeah.
And they could care less.
Yeah.
A few years ago, we had a swarm from one of our colonies hit the neighbors. I don't remember what it was, a little flowering tree they have over there. And I went over there and I knocked on the door and I said, hey, there's a swarm in the tree. I'm like, is it okay if I go ahead and get it? Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's fine. Go ahead. And then they came out, we're looking around. And at first I tested the waters. I'm like, let me go out there and start kind of moving around a little bit and make sure that, you know, they haven't been hanging. And I didn't think they'd been hanging there too long. I'm like, I just want to make sure that they're playing nice, you know. And after I messed with them for a little bit, without a veil and gloves and all that stuff. And then I said, hey, I'm like, if you guys want to come over, I'm like, I can show you guys. And the kids were there and stuff. And I gave them some honey, of course. And, you know, we just had a small educational moment and we talked about it. And they were out there for 45 minutes or better and stuff. And I'm like, you know, I said, this is the time that you get to go up close and personal without any protective gear to basically a ball of honeybees where, generally speaking, they most of the time are pretty docile, you know. And so it just turns into a great education moment for people, you know. So they can be time consuming, but I really think that overall, I think that education really helps out a lot, even just to the general public.
Yeah, you bet. I had there was a guy who used to bring in Russian nukes into the Denver area. And I had one call about 2 weeks after folks picked up their Russian nukes. This lady had bought a nuke, installed it, and 2 weeks later they had swarmed into her neighbor's yard. They were pissed off. So the lady's like, make it all go away. Take my equipment, take the bees, take everything, take the swarm, take what's left. I'm like, sure, you got it, lady. But she had just made so many problems with her neighbors that was the place she ended up in. You know,
that's sad.
Just make it go away. And I can understand. There was one time where I tried putting a hive in someone's backyard and they swarmed out into the neighbor's bush and the neighbors were not happy about it. And I'm like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
You know, if I can solve this conflict now, it's not going to matter because there's going to be a conflict later down the road. There's nothing I'm going to say that's going to make these people feel comfortable with bees in their neighbor's backyard. So I'm not even going to try, right? Yeah, I'm just going to try to be a good ambassador and walk away from that one.
Here's a good way to turn a bad situation into something favorable. Sometimes all it takes is a little bit of the sweet stuff to...
Yeah. Nice.
There was a lady that picked up a couple nucleus colonies, and I think she actually emailed us about them and said, hey, I'm having some contracting work done at my house, a new roof, and et cetera. And I thought she was picking up from us, but apparently she was picking up through the EMBA.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, because apparently, so anyway, I'll tell you the quick story. Our board president, Dan, said, yeah, the lady's going to set up some of her nukes here. And I'm like, I don't understand why she would do that, because at the location spot where we set up for the pickup is at a plant research facility, basically near St. Louis, not in the city, but kind of the nice suburbs of St. Louis. And so when she said, yeah, apparently the roofing contractors have an allergy to bee stings and stuff. And they said they absolutely will not work on the roof with the colonies in the yard. Probably would have been a non-issue, but you know, if you have problems and it's severe health problems, I can understand, you know, people's reluctancy. So anyway, I had just told her, I said, well, she said to me, she goes, well, I know I have to pick up the nukes. I'm like, you're absolutely right. I said, unfortunately, you are obligated to pick up your nucleus colony, or you can give it to somebody, or I think she had 2 actually, give it to somebody or whatever. And she goes, well, it's only going to be for a week or so. And I said, well, this is what I would do. I said, if you can find a friend, somebody that maybe has a farm even, or somewhere where you can go and set them up and just temporarily, for that week or 2. And I said, let them fly, go and feed them, do like you would normally, and try to get them to grow a little bit. And then when the coast is all clear and everything is completely done and they don't have to come back whatsoever, then you can have the site prepped at your own house and location. And then you'll have to screen them and move them at dark. So either extremely early in the morning or late in the evening, screen them up, move them in a well-ventilated area, preferably a pickup truck, if not a well-ventilated car, move them back to your home and then set them up there. And she says, well, I think I'm going to put them at my neighbor's house. And I'm like, I would urge you to go further than your neighbors. I'm like, and I explained to her why. I said, go at least a few miles away. Like in the spring, they're probably not foraging much greater than that, especially in our area, because there's abundant food supplies. And, I just explained to her the situation, and she understood. So somehow she talked to the board president, and they allowed her to put them up at the EMBA learning yard.
Which there's room there. It's not a big deal.
There is. It's not a huge deal. But she was pretty giddy about it. So one of our seasoned retired guys that we help teach a class with occasionally.
Oh, the Great Plains class.
Ken, he went over and goes, I got to go over and give somebody a lesson. I'm like, I don't understand. And then when I realized what it was about, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, well, this is good. She's getting like first class hands-on, experience and understanding and learning of exactly what to do. And I'm like, most people probably wouldn't get that, unless they had a mentor. So anyway, I think you could tell she was really giddy. She kept going back over there again and just checking on him and stuff. And I'm like, I get that, I'm like, I remember that. You want to keep putting your hands in them. It's like they sit up for a couple hours and you're like, I kind of want to go out there and peek at them. You know what I mean?
You forgot what they look like exactly.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's like a new baby, I guess. Yep. I don't know.
When you name all your queens and
right. JW knows what I'm talking about.
He names all those queens.
You know what I'm talking about. You just get those new babies in the box and you just got to coddle them a little bit.
Yeah.
You're not convincing me.
I'm not. I'm too tired.
I got you.
So I'm curious, since, we've been building nukes. JW's been chasing swarms.
Not too much.
Brian's been building nukes and Matt's been building nukes. What has been the biggest challenge for everybody with building nukes this spring?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I thought I did a good job this year of cutting my cells back to 2 because I did like walk away splits, and I've still gotten a good handful of my splits that are swarming on me. I think that's passed for the most part as far as timing goes. But I went out in my backyard and there was a little softball sitting out in a bush today again. So I don't know. Maybe next year I'll cut them down to 1 cell, or finally get my act together and start grafting and drop my own cells in and leave it at 1 like that. So that's been my only challenge this year. Everything else has gone really well.
So all the
see if you can show them my little double handful of swarm I sent you the pictures of. Can you transfer those over?
Where did they get? I don't know where I got.
Did you send them to her messenger account, or where did you send those to?
No, I just sent them to on.
You see Alicia's comment there, Matt?
No.
Her biggest challenge was walking around your stack of pro nukes.
Yeah.
So
luckily
that would be
good privacy fence, because I'm sure our neighbors
just on the private chat or E-man chat.
Oh, okay. I'll look up.
So Brian,
yeah,
all the nukes that you sold, did you do those making like walk away splits?
Yeah.
Is that what you sold? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or with queen cells already started.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's why I was curious. Send them.
I'm sending them to you.
What about you, Matt? What's been your biggest challenge with building nukes this year?
Let's see. I would probably say the biggest challenge, which actually I turned into kind of momentum going into the next round, but was having those mated queens laying for over 3 weeks. Because some of those nukes had gotten so strong, they were the strongest nuke had 4.5 frames of cap brood in there. And the other side was just capped honey. So it was just an obscene amount of brood, which is great because I was able to utilize some of that for just leaving a frame with a little bit of egg on it, and just some open larvae, and to keep those nurse bees and foragers, and just put in blanks of foundation. So those are going to roll into the next round of mating nukes. I'm going to give them about 6 days or so to draw those queen cells with all the foragers, and then I'm taking those double screen board divided 10-frame, 5-frame nukes and setting them on other stands or other yards so they can go and mate. And then I'm going to just barely crack, kind of like Bob Binney style, or just barely crack the top migratory cover to let those foragers come in and boost the honey production colonies right at the start of the flow. So I don't want to do that too soon, and I don't want to take the foragers away from those mating nukes getting built up right now and grabbing pollen whenever they can fly. So I would say that was kind of the challenge of pulling those nukes out for sale while also starting the next round, just like almost flawlessly. So it worked out. But it was maybe just the fact that I have to haul those up the hill on a 4-wheeler 3 at a time, and then stack them in my truck, and then haul them in town, bring them to the backyard. It's just a lot of picking up and setting down material, I guess, too. So, but it was pretty good money, and I wish I could do that every weekend. It's almost spoiling,
Mm-hmm.
But,
well, hey, right now it's fun. If you did it every weekend, that would turn into a job very quickly.
That's true.
Well, I remember the problem I had. Sorry, Matt.
No. I was saying the only other thing is the upkeep of those small colonies and their growth is just keeping that sugar water on them, in the jar feeders, especially before any of that nectar really turned on. So most of them I got at least 1.5 gallons, so about 6 fills of that quart jar about every 4 to 5 days. Some of them are taking it, so that's how they boosted up so quick. I feel like too. I kept it on them.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Brian?
Oh, so I had an issue out at the solar farm. So a lot of my hive stands are like 2 hives and a space in the middle. And during split time, I'll put a split in there with the entrance the opposite way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this was my fault or not, but I went back. The last time I went back, I had 2 lids that were off of the pro nukes. And most of the bees had left both of those pro nukes, but one of them actually had evidence of a rodent. When a mouse or something goes in and chews up the comb, there was still a tiny little cluster of bees. Something had chewed all around that cluster, and so I don't know if they were able to get the lid open or the lids blew open and that one just took an opportunity.
Yeah, sometimes those pro nukes, I feel like if you don't push the lid down and it doesn't latch, sometimes you don't notice that it didn't latch,
So that's what I'm not sure if that was my fault or something actually popped those lids open, but that was interesting.
I bet you have a raccoon over there.
You think they could open one of those pro nukes?
If it was a raccoon, I think it would have gotten into that box and tore the whole thing up. You know what I mean? Like it looked like something got into that box and ate around the cluster.
Oh, JW, what are your thoughts? You have a lot of experience there.
Excuse me.
I'm telling you, don't think that them coons can't tear a pro nuke all to pieces, because they certainly can.
Yeah, they'd knock the whole thing over. This was just the lid was off. All 5 frames were in there, and you could. It looked like a mouse. It could be a vole or something else, but that's what it looked like to me.
I've had them open galvanized trash cans.
Yeah.
A coon can do.
Yeah, a raccoon just would have tore it up, though.
Yeah, well, very much could have, and they very well might not have. If he got the lid off and got his nose full of bees, why?
I'm sure they were going after that protein inside there.
Yep, that's exactly right. So you can see all the pollen parts that got chewed up and everything. So that was interesting. And I'm not out there a lot, so I don't see stuff like I see in my backyard. I've seen foxes there. I've seen coyotes there. I see hawks there all the time. There are prairie dogs there everywhere. I'm sure there's little mice in there all around too. So that'd be my guess of what happened. In fact, you can see places where coyotes are going underneath the fence and have dug a little kind of place where they can get underneath it better. I think they're just going in looking for prairie dogs and all.
Yeah.
So how about you? What's been your most challenging thing about building nukes this year?
Oh, I'm going to say probably my most challenging thing.
Make wise choices when you answer this question.
I did, Tom. I got no saying that.
Hey,
wise choices.
You guys see the tree I'm barking up, don't you?
I got a deadbolt between me and her right now.
I don't know what my toughest issue would be. I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question.
How about volume? How did it go for volume this year? Was this your biggest volume move in bees? And
it was.
Yeah. Well, and this year was use wisdom, Tom. Thank you, Pat. So this is actually the first year that we've built our own nukes also. Before we were always buying them from someone else and reselling them. So this is our first year building and selling our own nukes. I personally think that the most difficult part was this week and the weather and just trying to get nukes out of the yards.
So pulling them when they're ready to put into 5-frame boxes.
That's what I would think, and I haven't been available to help Tom this week. So, what would you say
Well, how would that be your hardest? The hardest issue? I mean,
overall, I think that's the biggest issue that we've had. You don't think so? What do you think is the biggest issue we've had?
I wouldn't call that an issue. It's been pretty enjoyable for me, if I'm being honest. Even when it was lightly raining, it wasn't a problem for me. It wasn't like it was extremely cold outside.
That made it more difficult. That's been our biggest issue.
I mean, sometimes
because we have the one yard that is in a pasture that's like sloped and it's hard to get in and out of, and like there's a ton of our nukes are sitting down there.
It's between two cattle fields, JW, and there's a pond here that they have fenced off.
I've been there.
Yeah, that's right. You have been.
It's downhill from the road down to the hives. This is what they're trying to say.
Yeah, and
are all down in the valley.
The lowest point there is the pond. So if you
said your truck was going toward the pond the other day, didn't you?
Not too much. There's a lot of good vegetation, even though it's soft. There's a lot of good vegetation on it that's not all tramped down, so you can still get traction.
Thank you, Philip. There's the truth right there. There's the truth. It comes out.
I've gotten everything pulled by myself. Thank you.
He has. I had to work on orders this week.
It has not been a problem for me. I enjoyed it, honestly. You get out there and you just kind of get lost in them and you lose track of time, You
did not choose your words wisely. He enjoyed working by himself this week. That's what I heard, right?
I mean, that's not a problem. I mean, everybody in here probably, you enjoy getting into your work and you just kind of get into it and then it's not a problem, I mean, I like what I do. So, you don't need to drum up some kind of drama there, But I mean, I wouldn't say that was the biggest problem. For me, the biggest problem is stressing out the what ifs and the potential coulds and woulds and whatever, because I'm pretty hard on myself when it comes to, getting stuff done. And even though I understand in my own head that I'm not going to have 100% success, I'll still beat myself up over it a little bit. So I always go back on things. I'll go back on something and I'll be like, I should have done this, or I could have done better here. Just my personality, I suppose.
That's how you get better for next year, because no matter how hard you try, there's always going to be, especially that being 2020.
Yeah.
The one thing that surprised me the most, I would say, because this is my first year selling nukes, obviously. The one thing that surprised me the most was how streamlined the pickup has been. I mean, that was always my headache. You hear people talking about all the questions and all the heck, if anything, I'm having a 10, 15-minute conversation with these people, leaving them my phone number. If they have any questions, take a picture. I'm trying to build a relationship for future nuke sales, future sales, future honey sales, potentially. I mean, just putting my name in their head as the guy to call for anything bee related, not equipment when you're buying my nukes,
Just
I hated to turn that down, but when she asked if she could buy 5 10-frame boxes, I was like, no, I got to buy more boxes too. So I have to send you to the store for that, you know.
So
Well,
Matt,
there's-
how many customers are you talking about? You talking about 20, 100? How many nuke order customers are you dealing with this year?
We had like 40 something,
Okay.
and we sold 80 nukes. So what really helped us with that, as far as streamlining pickup, was, and I know Tom's mentioned it before, I made a sign up genius with pickup slots, certain days, certain times, and I emailed it to all of our customers. And each time slot was an hour long, and there was only 6 slots in each time slot. So that way 6 people could come. So we would have time to talk, answer questions to that group of 6 people as they came in, or talk to them as a group. And, you know, with the exception of one person, none of those days worked. So we did make an exception for him. And then another person had her father in a different state, had a medical emergency. So we had to reschedule her for next week, which is understandable. It's fine.
Sure.
But people, they get that slot, they sign up, they're there to pick up when they sign up, and that works really well.
So Matt, have you moved enough nukes this year to benefit from a system like that, or are you a little
absolutely
bit...
yeah. So
Yeah.
the first order was 21. Those were wholesale to the supplier in town.
Yep.
And then the second batch was right around 32. So you know, that's with all of those nukes being built, I have about 50 or so mating nukes going out right now. You know, I mean, I'm letting them go ahead and rear another queen, and I'll establish some out yards and some on some farms with those, and just kind of see how they do, you know. And if I need to set some of them up for resource hives, I'm assuming all 50 aren't going to come back mated, right? So I'll have to use some of those assets and make some stronger nukes at the, you know, in the couple week mark. But we'll see, you know. So I'm just trying to roll those assets into other future assets. So kind of the nuke battery, and kind of thinking about just a queen rearing thing coming up, you know, for the spring too. I have to remind myself it's only first part of May, you know. And,
Yeah.
Tom and Melissa have too, and I know you and JW, but we've done a lot in 1 month. You know, I mean, these nukes, I made all my splits and put the queen in the bottom with her 4 frames on April 1st, or I took her to another hive, you know, in the new stand location. But it was only basically 30 days ago. And it's amazing that not only did all those nukes build, but now the second round is in the box and the foragers are coming to it. And it's working out. But, and one of the Melissa, when you were just describing that, for whatever reason, it made me think of another kind of a funny question that I had. So we had 2 people wanted to get 2 overwinter nukes, when they wanted the strongest nukes that we possibly have, you know, the absolute strongest ones. But on the sign up genius, we didn't hear from them. So we reached back out to them and just said, you know, hey, we noticed you didn't sign up. You know, when do you want to come get them? Because they're ready. You know, that's what we talked about. And he's like, well, you know, I'm not really sure. We'll have to figure that out. Like, well, hold on. Do you want 3, 4, 5, or 6 swarm cells charged in that?
I know. Yep.
You know, I mean, so,
yeah. Like this, they're ready. If you want them, come get them.
Yeah. So they were totally fine. They came, actually, those were the folks from Illinois that came over this evening at 7. So
Dirty side.
The dirty side, Tom said. So JW sent over some pictures of his swarm, so I'm going to see if I can share those with you guys, and then JW can tell us what he's got going
Just
on.
one swarm.
just a little one, then.
Yeah, a little bit double.
Is that showing up? Does everybody see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's hard to tell how big it is in proportion, but it was 12, 14 pounds, I'll guarantee it. Of bees.
And then here's the second picture. Nope, that's Tom making nukes. There we go.
Come with some pictures of the tractors that were stuck.
Okay, Tom said he wants to see pictures of the tractors that were stuck, though.
I haven't done been out there and waded the mud to take the pictures is the reason I don't have any. I might do that tomorrow. It's poured down rain here all day, kids.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you. I mean, I'm not talking about a shower. I'm talking about rain all day.
I feel sorry for those horses out there.
Why? They're standing in the barn looking at me.
Oh, are they? I used to imagine those animals just sinking almost ankle knee deep.
So I starred some questions up here. Let me see if I can find them again. John Garner has a question. What are you guys doing with laying worker hives? So what do you guys do with laying worker hives?
Dump them.
JW dumps them.
I break them down, break them up. One frame will go into different hive. You know, I mean, I'll break it up and put it into a mating nuke and a bunch of them.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I want to do is save that comb so they don't turn it all into drone comb, right? So I'll pull it out. But if I'm not going to get rid of it completely, I'll pull out as much comb as I can, give it to other colonies, that kind of thing. But mostly it's splits that I find that go to laying worker. I don't have full colonies go to laying worker much at this point.
Like a queen doesn't come back, so then
yeah, exactly.
What we've done before is we either shake them out or we'll combine them with a stronger hive.
Yeah. Do you newspaper it or do you just
those ones I newspaper.
I've done that too. Now here's my question. The mated queen, does she go on top or the bottom? Are you putting it in the location of the mated queen or the location of the laying worker, or does that matter?
I put it where the laying queen is.
And put
it on top. Yeah, put the laying worker on top.
Yeah, laying worker on top.
Okay.
You want to get them out of that laying worker box. I'm gonna suggest, Brian, you want to go to, if you're gonna go to a completely separate box, even if you have to, but get them out of that laying worker box.
The only one other thing that I've done before that worked is I actually shook all the bees into the box, took out all that comb that had laying worker brood and eggs in it, and put in new comb and introduced a queen, and that actually worked. I did that once, and that worked because it took all that laying worker pheromone or whatever out of there. I don't suggest doing that because that's risky. Because I just did it because I wanted to try it out and see if it would work. It actually did work, but usually when we get a laying worker hive, we either shake them out or we combine them with a stronger hive.
More often than not,
you know what? These are answers that are really frustrating to the beginning beekeeper. So many of these answers are sideliner answers. You know, shake them out, combine them, walk away. These were things you couldn't do when you had one or two colonies in your backyard.
Yep.
So I don't know if we have any suggestions to those folks that are out there, but I think one thing I want those people to hear is that when you get to a certain size, those resources of the frames and the box and the space for that colony becomes way more valuable than the actual bees that are now laying worker. That you're like, there's a colony over there that can use some drawn comb, and those aren't using it, so I can put that to work. You know, if you've only got one or two colonies, your options are like combining them and then splitting them later, or trying to add frames of brood and dealing with that. You can try playing around with the queen pheromone product and seeing if that'll stop them, but I remember as a new beekeeper being frustrated when I sat in a meeting and every solution was go to another colony and get this.
Brian, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, okay, if you have a laying worker situation inside of a colony, you need to assess what's important. What are the valuable assets that are left behind? Okay, well, first of all, we know we don't have a queen. Worker bees that are laying eggs, those are useless. The bees that are left, if it's gotten to a laying worker, are not young bees, right? They're older bees, which means they're at the end of their lifespan. So there really is no value there. I mean, you can be a bleeding heart and say, well, they're bees. I don't want to just shake them out. If you have more than one colony in a yard, you shake all those bees out there. First, we would take that box away from that location. And you go out there and you start shaking them out and throwing the combs down on the ground. Those bees will try to find their way back to that location. But I guarantee they start to migrate into another colony that you may have in very close proximity.
And I would argue if like kindness to bees is part of your angle, that's actually more kind to bees than letting them be in an unhealthy state, which is what a laying worker colony is. Yeah. They're finding a healthy colony to spend the rest of their lives and contribute into, versus going down with a ship that's sinking.
Absolutely.
So I think it actually is kinder to bees.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Last ditch effort trying to, carry on their genes and the evolutionary scheme of things. I view them as a failed colony. So that's why I split them to basically to smithereens and don't let any of that laying worker go forward, So when I split them up, all those colonies are going to straighten those laying workers right out. A queen right colony is not going to put up with that, So that's why I either make mating nukes with them, or like JW saying, get them out of that box and that situation, because they're doomed, and that's what I like the main use of them is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Morris Homestead has a question too.
What do you mean by strong? Like how much capped brood is going to be hatching out of those frames? That's what I'm thinking of. Maybe doubling it up into a second 5 frame if there's a lot of capped brood on those frames, or putting it in an 8 or 10 frame box. It depends on how much brood you're putting in there.
Yeah, the only when I think about the risk on that, when you're doing a walkaway split, they're going to make multiple emergency cells, right? Multiple. So then what you can do is let's just say they made 8 or 10. You can go back and you can tear down all but say 2 or 3. But here's the risk. And I think Brian experienced this a little bit, and he hit on it earlier today. In my opinion, and I've seen this before because I don't want to say a mistake. I've understood this and I've learned this. You still can have little bitty cast swarms with virgins that come out of those colonies, even if you only leave 2 or maybe 3 cells inside there. So there still is a little small risk involved in that. When you have larger colonies, typically if you're making a smaller split as a walkaway, I'm not going to say for sure, but I'm going to say in my experience, typically I've never seen cast swarms with a virgin come out of a small split, but a large split, I've seen it. And as a matter of fact,
here he said
I'm pretty sure that one that we had that I left those couple cells in, I'm pretty sure that swarm came out of that box, and that was with the virgin.
So Morris says it had 3 full frames of brood, 2 foods, and extra shakes of bees too.
That feels like a really healthy split there, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It absolutely is.
And I would like Tom said, I'd be really mindful of the amount of queen cells that you leave in there. And I agree with Tom as well. The larger that split is, the more likely it's going to throw off multiple virgin swarms.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen little swarms, little splits throw off swarms. I think it's just weird genetics where you get a queen that'll. I think sometimes that colony is so congested, the virgin queen doesn't find the other virgin queen as she emerges.
That could be.
But in splits, they're just, some of them are so small that I don't think that's the case. But Matt, that sounds like a pretty large, healthy split there. I would be mindful of those emerging bees and where that space is for them to go.
Mm-hmm. Now, I would say if you don't do a walkaway, but you're introducing a mated queen into, you don't have that same dilemma or that same challenge anymore, because when you make that split, and I know Matt made some healthy splits like that, and I did too. Most of my splits that I had made were 3 frame splits with a lot of bees on there. Now, the only thing I didn't do that you had done, Matt, was I did not put the extra shake of bees in there. I didn't need it because I used a double screen board. Now, had I not used a double screen board, it is likely that I probably would have put an extra shake of bees in there, because when we had built these nucleus colonies, Missouri was still in that it can get really cold stage. And the last thing you want to do is not have enough bee power inside there for those 3 frames of brood to be able to thermoregulate that entire nest. If they have to shrink back, it gets cold enough that they shrink back off those outside frames where there might be brood. I guarantee, unless it's within a day or so of emerging, that brood will chill. And what'll end up happening is now you've set it back, because now when that dies, the bees go in, they uncap it, they pull it out, they consume it. That's time, that's energy, that's effort that they have to put toward something else and not growth. So we don't really think about it as a large setback, but from a standpoint of a really small colony, my opinion is that it is actually a pretty big setback when that happens. And it also introduces a lot of stress into the colony, which then, if you're in an area that has a lot of hive beetles, that can increase that pressure, because the hive beetles smell that stress pheromone. And now you can potentially get an influx of hive beetles that can happen within a day, just that quickly. If you were to use a mated queen, that would mitigate a couple different issues. But obviously the downside to that is now you have a larger cost associated with that. So pros and cons.
I want to talk about another splitting method I used this spring that I really enjoyed. Now, I've had this happen a couple of times, and I've done it in the past, where I've had a colony that swarmed on me, and I'll put a queen cell in the bottom box, a double screen board, and then a queen cell in the top box with an entrance the opposite way, trying to get 2 different queens back. This year, I found a couple of colonies that I felt like were just going to swarm that had queen cells. So I pulled the queen in a nuke, moved it to a totally different location, and then did that with the queen cells. Mm-hmm. So I'm making 2 different splits, not losing that queen. Those queens that I've done that with, because I put them on drawn comb, they've already got honey supers on them. I knocked the swarm impulse totally out of them, and I have 2 splits going above and below a queen excluder. So that's worked out really well for me. Having it be in different yard. Actually, I did this another yard. I did it in the exact same location, because I pulled the queen in a nuke and all the foragers left her, right? Mm-hmm. So I moved her to a dead out spot like 10 feet away. Mm-hmm. And then I've got 2 splits going. Actually, the top one was the one that swarmed today on me. So I can even do it in the same yard, because you lose all the foragers, and that kicks them back even harder.
Right.
So yeah.
That worked out really well for me this year. And again, having all that drawn comb to put them on helps them be ready for the flow. If that was foundation I was adding to it, they wouldn't be ready for supers yet. Mm-hmm. But because of all that comb, that's made it super. They've just all exploded. It's been really
absolutely. Yeah. So Brian, let me just make sure I understood you correctly. So you took a double deep colony that you felt like it was going to swarm, and what you did, pulled the queen, made a split off to the side, let her build back up.
Little 5-frame nuke. Yep.
5-frame nuke.
Yep.
And you took that parent colony and you just moved cells on the top box and the bottom, and you used a queen excluder in between.
Yep.
Okay, interesting.
Sometimes, I don't know if I did it with these this year, but sometimes I'll even give the bottom box a honey super, because all the forages are going back to that location. They don't have a queen. They might even, if the timing is right, make some honey for me. I've done that with colonies that have swarmed. I don't know if I did it with them this spring. I don't remember, but that has worked as well. Not so much the top box, because they lose all the foragers, because that goes opposite direction. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that bottom one, unless you play with population, right? That can be the other factor, but that bottom one typically becomes a little bit stronger.
What do you suggest would be what do you think was your percentage of getting those queens mated of those cells on the double screen board splits like that? Do you have any idea? Would you have pretty good success of getting them?
JW, I don't typically have much of a problem mating queens during the right time of the year to mate queens. Yeah. Usually it's around 80 to 90, but I'm guessing. I couldn't tell you. Out there, I've had really good success. in my backyard, I almost feel like I have better success on one side than the other, but total anecdotal data. But I don't try to make queens in August or September. Once the flow's over, I'm done.
Yeah.
So
I was just curious as to how good a success you was having doing that. And I also have done some of it like you're talking about also.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, how long do you leave? Eventually you're going to split that double screen board up, aren't you? Put them, make the separate hives.
Well, I either have a nuke to sell. I'll sell that. Like if they both come back mated, I'll pull off the top nuke, sell that, and then combine it back to a double deep 8. If one of them comes back mated, pull it out, combine it. If none of them come back mated, then I deal with that problem. Then I have a laying worker colony.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm just curious as what kind of success you had to get them mated, doing that with those
So
cells.
how about you? You've done it before. How is your mating success rate?
I had pretty decent luck, like I said, but you want to do it all before, I'm going to say before the 1st of June here.
Okay.
So you got another, right now we'd have another 30 days to do it. I'm going to have to do something. I'll tell you, if the weather ever clears up, because I know I'm going to.
I know we're missing all this black locust flow here because this rain won't stop.
I'm not missing it. Mine's not here yet on the black locust, I'm telling you.
I can't believe you're that much later than us. We've already had it blooming for
a week at least.
Over a week.
It's funny.
Well, I don't have that much just like look at every day, but no.
It's the breadth of the delay.
If Matt's concerned about the flow starting, you better get with the program. I can tell him that because it has already gone. It's already started. Fast started. You've been hearing I'm behind y'all. So,
have any of you guys ever pulled queens out of a robust colony that's building a honey crop and requeened at that point?
No, but nope. I haven't had the need to, but from what I've heard, that's about the prime time to do it. You can almost take one out and put another one right on the frame and put it down in the hive. I wouldn't do that, but I was talking with Mark Miller earlier this week on the phone. We had that very conversation.
They're so distracted by all the nectar coming in, they don't even
he's
care.
a supporter of it. I know that he was talking like it's a possibility at the right time of year. It's amazing what you can do, and then full throttle. They almost don't miss a beat.
So Matt, I'll tell you something that I did here just the other day. So I picked up a few virgins from you, right? And what I did is I was pulling some nukes in the yard, and I thought I'm going to try something here. And after I pulled the queen out and pulled some of the frames out, and I wasn't being overly aggressive, you could hear a hum inside the colony. You talked about this the other day. It was almost like it was just uniform. They realized quickly that their queen had left.
Yep.
And they got a hum to them. And I had those virgins, and I'm like, I'm going to try something right now. So what I did is I went over and I grabbed a frame and I set it up on top of the box like this with them humming. And I opened that up and I let her walk.
Nobody can see what you're doing.
I actually laid it down. I let her on top of the frame, and I let her walk out on top of the frame. And I'm like, I want to see what happens. I want to see if they would even be accepting of this with the idea or mindset that they understand that they're queenless already. And not all of them, but there was a couple bees immediately went after that virgin. Okay. And started to ball her. So I kind of flicked them around just a little bit to get them off of her. And, sometimes that's pretty hard to do. And I realized one went to 2 and to 3. And I'm like, okay. So I grabbed a hold of it and I got her out of there and I flicked the other ones off her and I put her back in the cage and I just kind of watched her for a second. I don't think she took too much of a beating. So then what I did is I put the cap back on that and I just slid it down inside the frames, pushed them together, closed it up, and I walked away. So she cannot get out of that cage because it's that style of cage that you had lent to me. So they're pretty much locked in there. So what I'm going to do is here in probably next week in a few days, I'll go back in that colony, open it up, and then I will. I don't know if I'll tear all the queen cells down at that point. I don't know what I might do again. I may start to tear some queen cells down, lay that frame back up on there, let the queen out again, and I just want to see what the mindset is. If there's, my guess is they'll still probably try to ball her, but I just want to see what happens.
So from what
I'm going to go the other
you're
way.
Go ahead. Sorry, JW.
If they're totally queenless with her in there, she's been in there a week, I'm going to say they'll accept her.
What if there's queen
Which
cells?
one's right? You
No,
went one
that's-
way and I went the other.
No, from what I've noticed, when I actually, so I'm hatching all my virgins in an incubator. I'm letting them age for at least 3 days, feeding them with attendants in there, in those battery boxes. So they're amongst bees, but they're actually aging in those roller cages, and they're not able to fly or flap or do a 100-yard sprint or anything, but they are able to be fed and actually mature and kind of grow. I mean, you will see a size difference in several days if they're getting attended to. Those virgins look different when you look at them. And then on what you're describing, I will let them make their queen cells. And before I introduce a virgin or even put her in there, I'll cut those queen cells out. And within 45 seconds to several minutes, you will hear that, like you're saying, that hum of the colony just takes on a different note.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's like JW's saying, it's a desperation hum. And they will absolutely take that virgin. You can walk her on the top frames with a little sugar spray tomorrow, as long as they don't have queen cells. If they have queen cells of their own, they won't take her. They'll ball her. I feel like, in my experience.
Yeah.
Especially
I'm going to agree with you there, Matt.
But Italians are a little bit more picky. They can. I feel like Italians, for whatever reason, want to be a little bit more picky on whatever you're trying to throw at them. If they have something of their own, they're gonna be a little bit more spicy at it, I feel like. But
yeah.
Here, Mark Miller brings up a good, from what we were talking about earlier with the laying worker hives. He brings up a good point. If I could click on his thing, and now there it is.
That's the reason I say dump them and get them out of the hives, is because I don't want be that many drones coming from them. In my opinion, Mark does more of that than what I do, but I don't think that you're going to have with the laying workers. I don't think you're going to have that many drones actually.
We got some split opinions here in the comments.
I feel like
Crystal said he heard they were inferior, but Tom Mack said that he heard that they were good. So I don't know. I've not researched it or looked into it.
In my rookie opinion, I feel like it's like a last-ditch effort to possibly throw something together, in just Mother's Nature way of, possibly passing it along. But I don't think that would be what a queen breeder would want to supply his drone flooding yards with. I just feel not. It may be sufficient, but it's not the best. That's just my rookie opinion.
Yeah,
I think those drones are still viable. I don't think they're going to win the race very often to get to that queen. They're just not going to be hardy enough, healthy enough, big enough, strong enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's they're just going to lose usually. Usually, that's what I think.
JW, what's your opinion?
He said there weren't any good.
I don't know. No comment.
No comment.
Take a stand, all right?
If anybody wants to join, I pinned the link up at the top. So
I
if
really
anybody
don't
wants to hop on
feel
the
like
screen,
you're going to have that many
do
drones
that.
produced and then laying worker cells.
Yeah.
Especially if there's 4 or 5 eggs on the sidewalls and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If you take those frames out, and even put them in another hive, them worker bees in a producing hive is going to clean out that junk immediately. They'll be right in there and clean every one of them out.
Yeah.
I don't think that's, in my personal opinion, I don't think that's it's a problem with saturating a DCA with land worker drones, because I don't think you're going to get that many out of them.
Yeah, I talked to you earlier.
That's my opinion.
Did you take any videos or pictures today while you were up there?
No, I was working.
No.
I sent a picture to you, Tom, of you on that MT.
On that picture.
Oh yeah, I guess you. I honestly hadn't been on my phone that much today. Phew, look at that guy.
Send that. I'll put it up here.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
You know what, Matt? I'm telling you, I like to do things pretty safe and make sure that I don't have any mess ups or any little screw ups or whatever. But I'm telling you, that felt a little bit sketch to me.
Yeah.
I did not like it.
It looked a little sketch, to be honest. I was surprised that he had just bungeed those together. I guess they were pretty well strapped on the truck too high, but
yeah,
you'll see in the picture. I mean, that was a lot of weight up top, you know.
Oh yeah. Well, and I asked him. I said, "Are those?" That was unloading. He's got an F550 with like I don't know a 16-foot. It's either a 14 or 16-foot flatbed on it, and he had so what those nukes are in is basically those big 275-gallon totes. That's the cage that those totes actually sit in. So he had nukes in each one of those cages. So that's two cages, one on top of the other is what you're looking at there. And then I'm unloading it with a mini track loader, a little MT100. And I mean so those cages I think are 4 foot tall. So for reference and size, from the bottom of that cage to the top of the second cage up there is 8 feet. And I mean, those cages are not tied together. They kind of fit together a little bit.
Yeah.
But you know, it's I don't know. It's not the optimum setup, but
like stacking two different cups that don't belong together on top of each other in the cage.
That's right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
There's a little.
Well, here, let me see if I can pull this video up. You guys, are you seeing that video that's playing right now?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I can make it bigger.
Did you guys tape them all up?
No, we just left them closed.
Okay.
Most people picked up in a pickup truck, and if they picked up in a car, we had recommended that they use a mesh laundry bag.
Yeah.
Just for safekeeping. And
so did people hand you their bag, or did you have them pull over and then bag them?
So I wasn't in that line that was handing them out. So that's a good question, Brian. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, I see Tom in his pink suit.
Yeah, I was going to say that was me.
It's my favorite color. That's one of the board members, actually. Yeah.
You see how many volunteers we had. It's really amazing.
That's awesome.
Show up and help out.
And this was at by the time that was at 5 o'clock this morning.
Nice.
So you know, I had a lot of people come out to really help. So many hands make light work.
Yeah.
So we're grateful for everyone that does come out. You know, the last thing you want to do is have to do everything solo by yourself or just one or two people. It's great when you get a club rallied around and the excitement of a nuke pickup. And some of those people that showed up to help weren't getting any nukes. There were several of them. So they didn't show up just to pick up their own nukes, but they were there just to help participate. So, and some of the people, I didn't even know their names. And I talk to everybody at the club. So when I see people walk in or sitting down by themselves, I make it a point to go over and target them. You know, I go over and introduce myself and say hello and ask them how they are. And, you know, just kind of engage with them so that people understand that it is a welcoming club and it's not cliquey. You know, anybody's welcome. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, a young teenager keeping bees or you're, you know, like Mr. Irwin up there, a seasoned professional. So everybody's welcome and everybody has a place at that, you know, table there with our club. I've just heard in the past that certain clubs can be kind of cliquey, and Matt knows what I'm talking about. And nobody wants to participate in that.
Well, intentionally or unintentionally, it's really easy to talk to the people you know. So
it is.
You know, when I started with one of our clubs, there was one lady there who it was kind of her job, whether it was defined and stated or not, that she was just like the social butterfly. Mm-hmm. And she'd go around and talk to everybody and make everybody feel welcome, doing exactly what you're talking about. You know, and it's just that really helps the new beekeepers who aren't sure if this is like the right place for them to get learning. Go, okay, these are nice people. I want to come back next month.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, occasionally I'll have some people that'll stop me and and I get it. And I'm not trying to be ignorant or inconsiderate, but they'll want to monopolize my time there a little bit at the club meetings. And I'll have to stop them at some point and be like, hey, catch me here later, or here's my card. You can give me a call. I'm going to go say hello to a couple new people that just walked in the door,
Or you know what you can say is, who really knows about this? Melissa.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
So
man.
It's almost like, so when we do our club meetings, it's almost like we all have our roles, right? We have one guy that sets up all the audio visual equipment, ready for the speaker and whatnot. Janet usually helps him with the computer stuff, and we always have some sort of dessert or snack or something. So Janet's in charge of setting all that up and then back up for the computer stuff. Tom's greeting people and talking to people, fielding questions, and so is Dan. And then I'm usually at the welcoming people as they come in, and Melissa Catalano is doing that also, and selling T-shirts and cups and sweatshirts and answering, membership questions or helping people sign up for memberships and things like that.
Yeah.
You're usually answering questions. People coming in there need questions asked. You're usually talking to people and stuff like that. You and Dan usually handle that part.
Yeah. Just whoever, just trying to be friendly with people. That's all.
It's kind of like everybody kind of falls into their own little role there.
Yeah, we try not to click together as a group of board members and talk to each other. We have plenty of time for that, and all of us board members know each other very well. But we try to all kind of separate ourselves up a little bit and play in the key roles, because as a board member, our job, and we need to understand that it's for service. It's to help people. That's our job. That's why we're there. We're helping to service people, whatever that might be. It could be just a kind listening ear. It could be answering a question. It could be helping somebody buy some merch that supports their club, whatever that might be and whatever that looks like. I think all the, I don't know, I've said it before, but I think we really do have a great board at the NBA, and I'm pretty proud to be a part of it. If it wasn't great and you felt like you're the only one doing or participating,
you get burned out quick.
It would burn you out and it would wear on you very quickly. So it really takes a key group of people. And Melissa and I have talked about that before when we had, different board members. I'm like, I hope this person never leaves, because they're really good at what they do. And they work at this like it's their job and they're getting paid for it,
Yeah.
And that's really what you want. You want somebody that's really dedicated to the cause, whether they're receiving compensation or not. Just makes it a better place.
So let's switch gears a little bit, because I know Brian and us had our first market of the season today. And I'm curious, JW, have you been selling any honey between the raindrops?
Not too much the last few days. My wife totaled up for the month, and I had 122 pounds.
Wow, that's good.
Oh, for the month of April.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, do you have any markets coming up?
No, we're not doing any markets. Luckily, we have, I think Alicia would have to tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think there's at least 4 retail places where we have our honey right now, maybe 5. And we sell a lot by just word of mouth right now, so we're not having to do any markets, and I'm not one who likes to sit still. I can't do that, so I don't know. At some point this year, I'm sure we will. There's an event in town. They call it Twin City Days, but where the two towns kind of get together, and it's a big kind of Main Street USA is what Festus in town is like here. So, a cool little, they shut down the street and a lot of vendors, and the honey sales there are pretty good. So we'll do some for sure, but we're not set up to do a bunch of markets just yet.
He is a professional honey hustler anyway.
Yeah,
That's right. He does. He's got his honey hustler working nonstop.
She's going to Chamber of Commerce meetings throughout the week. She takes a honey bag with her, and it's nothing for her she'll walk around with a quart jar of honey at those meetings, and just to be like a reminder.
Just to entice people.
You can get your honey through, so she's
That's
awesome
funny.
job. I couldn't ask for a better partner.
Honey hustler.
Yeah, she's awesome.
So how was your market, Brian?
It was awesome. Like I said earlier before we got on, like you could not ask for a more perfect weather day. It was like 75 and sunny.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, we did really well. Yeah, it was a great. It was nice to be back. It was nice to see all the people. You know, it was a lot of the same people, a lot of the same neighbor vendors, the volunteers, and everything. It was really good. Looking at our numbers, we actually did better this year, the first day, than last year, which kind of makes sense because people know us there because this is our second year. We had a lot of customers come back, you know, like we're happy that the market's back up. We really miss your honey, that kind of thing. So that was reaffirming. It was busy and I'm tired, man. I came home and I had like muscle cramping issues for like an hour. I took a shower and this was all after I caught that swarm, but it was good.
Now, question, do you sell porch pickup from your house also?
Yeah.
And what else was I going to ask? I don't remember. So when you went back before like the first market, do you kind of like think of your head like, okay, how am I going to set this up? What am I going to do? What worked last year? Did you change anything about your setup strategy this year at the market than you did before?
I actually we did a market setup in our garage one day. I set everything up. I pulled everything out. And, you know, I looked at all our signs. I thought about what we need. Because, like, at the end of last year, we kind of went in a couple of different directions and our stuff got split into different tubs and everything. So it was time to kind of make sure it all got consolidated. So I spent hours preparing for it, just making sure that we were ready to go. Like I took all of our crates and I washed them down. I re-stained them because you pull them out and you're like, ugh, it looks like I used this all last year and didn't clean it because that's what happened. So just little stuff like that, you know, going through everything and just making sure it was all ready. What's up, Mark?
Hey,
What's
Mark.
going on, Brian? Well, I tell you what, Matt sure is smart, ain't he?
Yep.
You're
He didn't spend all day.
rubbing off on him.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm learning from the best, sir. JW.
Well, y'all on that subject, I got virgins out there in the bank. It's been in the bank. Tomorrow will be 7 days. I got virgins that just are hatching out. I just throwed some in a bank a while ago. And I've got queens that are needing to be plucked out. Now, I'm going to try plucking the queen out and drenching the 3 frames of bees with sugar water. Totally soaking them down and then put the virgin in.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll work. We'll see.
I want to know what your outcome is.
I do too. I'm gonna find out tomorrow. If it's sunny and pretty. Today it was rainy and cloudy, and I didn't want to get into them because I couldn't see.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and potentially, if you were to try it, then a lot of those forage forces home a little bit angrier, not quite as cordial or inviting. May have a different outcome too.
Right. So I just want to see because them older virgins, they've matured in the bank. They've been taken care of. Now, if I can get them to accept it in 2 days' time, they're going to be mated.
Yeah, with good weather, right?
Yeah. I love that.
Is that a sombrero? Because it's big enough for one.
Did they run the race today? I didn't even pay attention.
Paul said I needed
for the
hat.
garden.
That's a derby hat, Tom.
Yeah, Kentucky Derby.
So, Melissa, how was your market? What's your plan for the year?
So, our market, the weather was not favorable. It was about 50 some odd degrees and rainy the entire market. But we did really well. Like, even if it would have been a nice day, I would have been happy with what we made today. So awesome. I was really happy with what we made with it really cruddy weather. I think we could have probably close to doubled what we did if we would have had nice weather, to be quite honest, which is pretty impressive.
So was that because it was like a first event of the season? To what do you attribute
So-
doing so well on such a bad weather day?
So this event is in downtown Labadee, which is where we live. And it's a really small community, but there's a couple of really good restaurants there that people from like the county come out. So it has a really good draw.
Yep.
And we've done this market. She did 2 of them last year and 1 the previous year. So it's not a weekly market or a monthly market. It's a season, only a couple times a year.
Yep.
And it's always drawn a really good crowd and has 20 to 30 vendors there. And we've always done pretty well at it. So it's kind of made a little bit of a name for itself. People look forward to coming out to the country and going to this little farmers market. So we've always done good at it as far as that's concerned. But yeah, I think I do know that there were several people that came to our booth that specifically came because they wanted our honey, because they bought it last year at the market and they wanted to get it, we saw you were going to be back this year, so we came. So that was really good. And we actually, I was telling you guys before the show, we did one of the customers today that came up to us. She's like, "Oh, I bought some candles from you guys and at Christmas time at one of the elementary schools that they had like a little Christmas market." And that's not really a very big event, but we do it because it's at one of the local elementary schools. It just so happened that particular day, Tom and I had a different market at actually the middle school, the same school district, that has an actual basketball tournament at the school the same day. So it gets a really good crowd. So we sent our boys, Andrew and Isaac, to the smaller market. And then Tom and I were at the larger market. Yeah. She's like, "Yeah, I bought it it was the smaller school." She's like, "Oh yeah, our boys were there." She's like, "Oh," she's like, "Those were your boys?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "They were so well spoken and like just the way they answered questions and they were so professional." I'm like, "Well, thanks. That makes me feel good that our kids are representing us well."
Yeah.
So that was really good. So yeah, we had a lot of repeat customers today. So that was really nice. As far as the setup and organization, I kind of pretty much set up the same way that I had in the past. The only thing I did do different is I brought a small observation hive because yesterday I did a presentation at the junior high in town, and so I already had these bees in an observation hive.
Yeah.
Generally, we don't bring observation hives to markets just because we don't have room on our table to set them anywhere safely.
Okay.
But since I already had them, and I made some room, and we were able to put them in there. The only downfall to that is that it was only 50 something degrees, and
That's like 56, so it wasn't bad. 56, 58.
They were all clustered on one side of the frame, so all the brood on the other side of the frame is probably no bueno.
Yeah.
But it's whatever. It's spring. They'll replace it fast enough.
And how long have you had them out of the hive right now?
To probably not quite 48 hours.
Okay, question for Mark Miller, the queen guru. If you pulled a frame of brood out with the queen on it and kept it out of that colony for 48 hours, is it likely that you could put that frame of brood back in there with the queen on it and then accept them like she never left?
Yeah, I would say so.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, this will be an experiment then. If they kill the queen, her fault.
It's a green queen. It's okay. He wanted to replace the green ones anyway later on this year.
Put her in a push-in cage if you're worried about it. Just put her in a push-in cage.
Yeah.
Let's extend the thinking though. Like, what if they started queen cells? At what point will they start queen cells? Would you check, or are you still going to put her back in?
I'll check.
I would check.
I'll break them. I'll wipe them out. Yeah.
Right now, you go back, you cut those queen cells out, you put that queen right back in. They're going to be like, "Oh, mated queen."
Yeah.
Not queenless, mated queen. Yeah. Laying mated queen. Maybe that probably didn't stop. Maybe she did. If she's just on that one frame. But I've done the same. I've had a 1-frame colony with the queen on it all weekend long. Pull it Friday, put it back in Sunday afternoon, and they've been fine. But I always use like the old crappy queens, like that queen that's going nowhere sits in a 5-frame box in my backyard, and that's my market queen.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything does happen, that's okay.
Lose
I don't
nothing.
care.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I told her. I'm like, hey, when I seen she had it down there, I'm like, hey, where'd you get that queen from?
Not
And
today.
I'm like, what box did you get that out of? She's like, oh, the doubled up 7-frame Apiary. I'm like, that was a good colony. I'm like, why didn't you go to one that was just like?
Well, I went to the one next to it, but there was no queen in it. The 8-frame, there was just like 4 frames of bees in the middle. They must have not made a queen because I wrote some. I didn't see a queen
On
in
the
it.
single?
Yeah.
There's a queen in there?
Well, I didn't see her and I was in a hurry, so that's the one I took.
Oh. Okay.
I venture to say that they're going to take a laying queen over anything.
Mhm.
You know,
Mm.
so,
Yeah.
and you're putting a laying queen in there with eggs brood in it. So there you go.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I just didn't know if after, they say, 24 hours, most colonies will start to build cells. Maybe not, some of them, maybe not quite that early. But they're probably going to start preparation on building cells, which means they've had a mindset change. So my thought was, okay, if they already had a mindset change, are they going to start to accept that original queen back in there? Or how long does it take for them to forget that pheromone smell? Or is there one that they remember specifically? I guess would even be a question I would have.
I wouldn't worry about that. I would worry about it 2 weeks from there if a virgin did hatch out and kill her.
Yeah.
That's what I would make sure I tore down all the cells if they made them.
Yeah. Well, was that colony doing well?
Yeah,
good brood pattern?
Oh yeah, that colony is. Yeah.
Now I would have less of a problem if there was a scattered brood pattern. I'm like, I don't care. I'll just replace that one. No big deal.
Yeah.
We'll it's not any loss. Have one that you can kind of abuse a little bit, I guess, if you will.
But so with having that nuke there, though, that did bring a lot of interest. Children and adults, and were just fascinated, like, oh my god, there's bees here. That's just thought that was the coolest thing. Like, I don't know if that garnered me any sales, but it definitely interested people that either had already walked to my table or brought kids over that noticed them, and parents come with them.
So I think there's a really important point for marketers. I bet your observation hive helped you today. If I brought an observation hive, it would have taken sales away from us because we were so busy. Mm-hmm. I didn't want looky-loos talking about bees in my booth. So we actually talked about it last night. Should we bring the observation hive? No, we're going to be super busy. Let's just focus on customers. However, when it's a little slow in the season, or I want to garner a little bit more interest because, things are slowing down, that observation hive can come in real handy. But there are times where it can be a liability because people just want to talk and gawk.
Yeah. Well, it can be a seasonal liability also, because we've had markets in like August or October. I can't remember when that particular market was that we took the observation hive. And this was like one of the first markets we ever did.
Yep.
And it was in dearth. So we had, because again, this was kind of when we were first beginning, we had sugar syrup on the bees, so they had feed on them, and all the yellow jackets and the bees kept coming when we did it at Tractor Supply. The bees were like all over our table because they could smell those bees there and whatnot. So
we just say they're bee approved. That's all.
Yeah.
Products are bee approved.
And my biggest problems with local bees at my booth have happened during those 2-day events where they find me by Saturday afternoon. Mm-hmm. And then they're there Sunday morning at 7 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
Because they found you and they're all coming.
You made the morning.
So I have a question. When how do you deal with keeping your booth clean in the summertime?
To avoid
what do you, I know what we do. What do you guys do?
Clean?
Like, well, people drip honey when they're taking samples or, whatever.
Oh, I slap them and tell them, did your mother raise you like that?
Clean up.
Well, we bring wipes all the time. So any spill gets cleaned up immediately.
That's what we do.
I guess the bigger question for me is, what do you do when bees start finding your booth? How do you shut it down? Because there have been times where Jen's been like, oh, don't worry about that bee. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. One bee becomes 10 bees, becomes 100 bees, becomes a big giant problem at the market.
Yeah.
So I found that's how I started catching bees. They'd kind of hit my little taster station, and I'd practice catching little workers by the wings. And then I have a little jar over here, and I throw them in the jar, and it's got honey on the bottom. They get stuck in the honey. The lid goes on. Now, Russell Koopman, I think it was Russell, who talked about bringing a little bee vac. So you can just vacuum them up and go, whoop, and they're gone.
What about like if that started happening? What about having a bottle of like Bego to spray that like smells like black cherries and just hit the tablecloth underneath the table? Just kind of.
That's an idea.
I haven't thought about that.
I have no idea, but
I had one situation where it was like 7 a.m. I pull up to my spot, open up my back seat, and a case of honey falls out, breaks on the ground. So I had honey all over the pavement. I spent like 20 minutes cleaning it up as best as I could. Yeah. And then I put a giant tub on top of what was left. So no bees could get it. I was going to
say, you have to cover it up somehow. So I can't say that we've ever had that problem, Brian. Like, we'll get like the onesie twosies bees, but we've never had them just be all. The only time that happened was when we had that observation hive with us during a dearth time, but we've never had it where there's just bees everywhere. Like, they'll come and they'll smell like the candles, and they'll kind of poke around the candles for a little bit and go away. But we've never had them just like tons of bees everywhere.
Well, it gets worse after the honey flow. So like,
and I've noticed that, but we have had like snow cone places, because there's a lot of snow. Like, call us, like, can you come get this swarm? I'm like, it's not a swarm.
It's sugar.
They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's just bees looking for something to eat. I'm like, do you have a hose? Keep your picnic table, because it's all outdoor stuff. I'm like, keep your picnic tables hosed down. You're just going to have to hose them down periodically throughout the day. Like, that's going to be the only way you're going to keep the bees away.
I got to go put my birds away. I'll be right back.
No problem.
Y'all, we got hacked today.
You got hacked?
Yeah. Yeah, wife went in there looking at our account and was like, oh my God. Yeah.
Oh no.
I had to cancel all the cards and stuff today.
Well, that's no fun.
Yeah.
No. So now I got to go Monday. They'll call and have them issue more cards and all that. Get all that mess straightened out. So be careful. Be careful where you run your cards.
Mm-hmm.
I think it happened in Jonesboro at a truck stop.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Don't really know, but
yeah, we've thankfully never had to have that anything done with that before. Thank God.
Just keep an eye on your account, because it's the second time it's happened to us.
Wow.
The first time we went on a trip down in Florida, and it was at a gas station, and they got us for like 10 grand.
Wow.
Yeah. The bank helps out, but they don't get everything.
Yeah.
So anything interesting going on with your spring beekeeping, Mark, other than you making some queens? And
that's about all I'm doing right now. I've got honey being capped already at the top, working their way down. So that's about where I'm at on that. It's been cool here the last few days, so there ain't much been happening.
Yeah.
Cloudy.
We need to get out of this rainy, wet pattern. I'm done. I'm over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm worried all the anything that they had stored already, they've started consuming because they haven't been able to get out of their hives to go.
Yeah. Poplar's still blooming. So blackberries, everything's busted loose.
Mm-hmm.
We just need.
I have seen that poplar where it rained, and I went out there to the bees, and I kept hearing this roar, and it had just rained, and I kept hearing it roar, and I'm like, have I got a swarm? I walked over there, and they were all over the ground, and the rain had washed the nectar out of them poplar blooms on the ground, and the bees were getting the nectar off the ground.
No kidding.
Interesting, huh?
That was cool. Yeah.
That is, huh?
It'll just drip out of those blooms on the right
Will.
on a flow on them. The tulip poplars are big producers.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have one in our backyard. It last week just started blooming, so I don't. With the weather the way it's been this week, I don't know that it's put out any more blooms.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it's getting the nectar washed out of it. I mean, those flowers sit straight up like this, and they're just wide open, washing nectar out of those things, But on a nice sunshiny day, though, you can actually pull one of those blooms down and look inside there. You can put your finger down there and just feel the wet nectar down inside those blooms down there. It's pretty amazing.
Been killing snakes.
Yeah.
How many we've killed? 7 or 8, I guess.
Holy cow. We're gonna start a tally for you with snakes like JW and his raccoons.
Mm-hmm.
Don't kill them snakes. I like snakes.
Yeah, I don't like them, JW. They can go on.
I'll send your snakes to JW's house then.
I'll take them.
I had a possum in the chicken house the other day.
Oh boy.
Turned the pit on him.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt, what are you going to do in your background? You've for the several months now have had pro nukes. What are you going to use as a backdrop now?
I've had honey supers blocking and pro nukes blocking my clutter. Now my pants are pulled down on live TV. I don't know, to tell you the truth. If Felicia lets me out of this garage tomorrow, then maybe I'll start cleaning up. But
Well, after you get past the pressures of the nuke sales and all that stuff, things will tend to simmer down just a little bit and kind of even off for you, allow some of the other work to get completed and such.
There's no doubt. There's been some 12-hour days this past week or two, not every single day, maybe a couple hours here, a couple hours there, but there's definitely been some solid days building them and weather related. You got to get free from your other contracting job to get out there on the mountain and get your suit on, rain or shine, and get done what you can get done with whatever daylight you have or weather you have to work with. So
that's right.
It's been a lot of fun. I can't wait till next year already, to tell you the truth. So
yeah, I definitely enjoy it too. It is a lot of work, but I definitely enjoy it myself. It's really rewarding.
I do too.
There you go, Brian. You got a question.
You're muted.
Yeah, I figured that out. DC, I don't know. I'm not checking until May 11th. I'm trying to be good. Just feed and keep the lids closed. So I don't know.
Be patient, my son. Be patient.
That's what I told them earlier, Mark. I have one that I'm going into just to appease my curiosity. Right. So anytime I want to see how they're doing, I'm going to look at that one. And if I'm going to mess up one, that's okay.
Right.
I couldn't help myself. I had to do the same thing, Brian. Mark, you and I had kind of talked about how fast, those virgins may be coming back and actually laying. And I looked at one after about a week and a half, and there was eggs, and I just put them right back together, and that was enough. I spiced. I'm just going to leave the rest of them just sit. But I think so far so good. We're at least 85% success. We'll see.
You get like Ian Stepler. You pop a lid, and then you're like, just one more, and then just one more, and then just one more, and you're like,
easy to do. It's easy to do for sure.
Yep.
One and done.
Well, I know my grafting success this year has really sucked. Early on, we had all that cold weather and rain, and I learned a valuable lesson. Don't put them grafts in when it's going to turn off cold that night at 8 o'clock in the evening, because they don't cover them.
Mark Phillip made a comment around when we were talking about getting queens back. He thought it might have been a mistake for him to put I think he said 6 3 ways right in a row, all next to each other. Do you have an opinion? Do you think that was a mistake that Philip might have made that affected his numbers?
Yeah, I wouldn't put them close together at all.
Yeah.
If I would, they'd be the opposite direction
Mhm.
Yeah.
for sure.
So how do you have your 3 ways spread out through your yard?
You seen the picture I sent you? I've got 2 3-ways on a pallet, so that's
Okay.
6 possible queens.
Yeah.
1 box facing one way on one side of the pallet, 1 on the other side of the pallet. And then the next pallet is turned completely this way, and the other pallet's this way.
Yep.
And then so on and so on.
Yep. You know, way back when I was a beginning beekeeper, you read all the books and all the methods about queen rearing, and they talk about the queen right finisher, and one of the benefits is a virgin queen isn't going to come back into that colony and kill all your cells. And you read that when you're like a 3rd-year beekeeper, and you're like, how is that going to happen? Where's this virgin queen going to come from? And then you look at my backyard right now that's got like 40 splits going on, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I've thought about that before. You hear a drone fly by, you're like, was that a virgin? You know,
Yeah.
there's like so much happening, you know, you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I popped the top on a cell builder the other day, and I bet there was 500 drones come flying out of the top of it. I'm like, go get them, boys.
Yeah.
Tight shoe night.
Yeah.
Oh,
Here,
well,
JW, we got sent this picture just for you. Who can guess who that is?
Yeah. Guess who that is in the picture.
Oh, I know who that is.
And I'm not talking about the slithery thing either.
Looks like Lee to me.
is that the guy who got in trouble for having all those lions in California?
No. All those lions.
You know who I'm talking about?
No, I have no idea.
That is a young Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Oh my God.
Ryan wins.
Oh, boy.
Ryan wins.
Yeah.
Lee, did you hear that? Did you hear what
That is Mr. Kodiak Farm Bees right there.
I think that's the first time I've ever seen Lee's tattoos. Look at that.
yeah, that's funny.
Freddie Mercury.
He will rock you.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I can't unsee that now. That was good. I like that.
It's the mustache, DC says.
Yeah, I think he's right. DC, you're absolutely right. It is the mustache. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
What is that he's got?
That's
One of
very
the
good
swamp
one.
pythons or something? Or it looks like a big rattlesnake.
I'm pretty sure.
What
yeah,
kind of
it's
snake
like they're
did
having
you
trouble
have
with in
there?
Florida.
It's a big snake.
Something tells me it's not a rattlesnake.
No.
No.
Now, we've got rattlers here that big. I've seen them.
Lee, what kind of snake you got there?
Some kind.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a snake person. They can all go to JW's house for all I care.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like them either. Listen. The only good snake is a dead one.
I don't do spiders. I don't do snakes.
That, not to be a smart aleck, it was why.
Why? Because I don't like them. That's why.
Red tail
Well,
boa.
I hope you don't get to disliking me.
Yeah. Yeah, you better watch your back. You better not say the wrong thing.
Mark, all you need to do is just throw a little yellow spray paint on their tail and you'll see them coming like JW does on the raccoons, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, make them look like a skunk.
He's gonna make the news there out there in Illinois. Someone has been spray painting dozens of raccoons.
Who would do such a thing?
Yeah, you'll get all the PETA supporters out there on the
They've
board.
all washed off by now. Much rains we've had.
Oh, bad.
Mhm.
It was a red-tailed boa.
You should have shaved them, left a mohawk on
Paul says it could eat one of JW's raccoons.
I imagine.
them. I imagine it would. Yeah.
It tried
DC,
to anyway.
DC, I think it was a pet.
Yeah, I don't know. He didn't
If
say.
it was a red-tailed boa, I'm pretty sure it was a pet. Somebody's.
When
How
we
long
was
ago?
kids, we had me and my little cousins was all playing up there at Kentucky Lake, and my little cousin got bit by a timber rattler. So we killed it, and we took it home and skinned it, and it had a gray squirrel in it inside it.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nasty.
You know, I used to bring them up here from Mexico. I
Mhm.
kept them in my garage, and some of them, I had one. I call him Hector. I'd buy white rats or mice, you know, and he went a year and never ever eat one. I'd put them mice in there, and they'd cannibalize and eat one another. But that snake never did ever eat one of them mice.
Seriously?
Over a year.
Wow.
Wow.
That's all the only thing he had to eat. Was what I fed him, and he never did eat nothing for a year.
Is that uncommon?
Yeah, yes, if they're not real active, well, they may go for long periods of time and not eat.
Their
Oh.
metabolism just almost slows to a crawl.
Yep, reptiles don't.
That's interesting.
Well, folks, I think we're going to shut it down tonight. Tom's been up since probably 3:30 this morning, and I'm tired from being out in the cold and rain all day. So we're going to shut this stream down and see everybody on the next one.
Thanks for hosting tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Good talk.
Thanks.
Back
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
I'm back
appreciate
to
you guys.
Joy next week. Hope he gets back. And
Yeah, Joey should be back next
I
week.
like you guys.
It didn't sound like you did. I seen through what you said, bud. Okay.
No, yeah, Joey
Hey.
should be back next Saturday.
He's no longer my best friend. He's not my second best friend.
Don't take it
Best friend.
personal. It's just
Okay. Wait, that means I was your second best friend for a while.
Well, you're my girlfriend.
Foot in mouth.
No.
On that
Well,
note, good night, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Night.
Now, y'all.
see y'all.